The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you were the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
I'm Livy Dunn, All-American gymnast and Viore athlete. When you travel and train as much as I do, you find happiness where you are. On the mat or on the sand, movement and comfort are essential. That's why I live in Performance Joggers by Viore. Made from DreamKnit fabric that's made of 89% recycled materials, effortlessly soft and made to move as much as I do. My happiness starts here, in the softest joggers on the planet. Get 20% off your first purchase at viore.com/Livy. That's VUORI.com/LIVVY. Exclusions apply. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to viore.com/Livy and discover the full versatility of Viore clothing. Exclusions apply. Visit the website for full terms and conditions.
This episode is brought to you by Tidy Cats, here to level up your litter game with their new Performance Plus lineup. Your home is your happy place, your cats, VIPs. So when it comes to the litter box, excellence isn't optional. Choose from products that specialize in max power clumping, low tracking, or odor fighting so advanced, stink won't see it coming. Tidy Cats Performance Plus. Mission mighty, keep it tidy. Shop now at tidycats.com.
The Daily Braw. This is anything but footy at the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games.
The Commonwealth Games of 2026 are over. I'm Michael, and I was in Glasgow.
And I'm John, and I too was also in Glasgow. They were never meant to have happened, but these games, thank goodness they did.
We round up all the news from the games, we look back, and we'll look ahead to what maybe India in 2030 might be like.
This is the final Braw from anything but footy at the biggest sporting event in the UK this year.
Did you enjoy yourself?
I had the best time that I have had at a multi-sport event since Paris 2024.
It was fun, wasn't it?
It was.
Fun.
It was really good fun. But before we talk about why it was fun, let's talk about the highlights, shall we? What were your highlights? What are the moments you're going to look back on? And I've spoken to a lot of people since I got home in 24 hours. What have you told them? What are the kind of like top things you've said to them?
Well, first thing I'd say is the sporting highlights were fun. I think it was a fun games on the field of play. I think there was lots of good moments, and I think it proved that you don't always need to be at the very elite of competition for something to be entertained and to enjoy something. And actually, sometimes when you are at the elite of competition, so say, for example, FIFA's Men's World Cup final, you actually don't get that entertainment and that joy that I think I saw across all of the 8 sports that I witnessed in Glasgow at the Commonwealth Games. It's why I often tell people that Championship football is better than Premier League football, for example. I really enjoyed it. Now, Josh Kerr, for example, most people would highlight that was their highlight. That was the standout moment. That was the big moment for the host nation, Scotland. Now, he didn't run that mile in anywhere close to the time that he ran when he broke the world record. But that didn't make it less entertaining than being at the Diamond League. Just because it was, whatever it was, 8-10 seconds slower, it was still just a brilliant thing to have witnessed. Loved watching Georgia Hunter-Bear. Like, Jasmine Sawyers didn't jump as far as she did when she won the European indoor title. But it was a brilliant moment. And the fact that she came back from her injury and upgraded the medal that she won in Glasgow in 2014 still made it an amazing night of track and field. So, yeah, I thought on and off, it was brilliant. It was really good. I enjoyed so much. I mean, obviously the focus was at the athletics, but I loved getting around to see the swimming, the gymnastics. I just go back to that first day and watching the powerlifting. And the vantage point that we had was just so close. We were sort of stage left. If you were in the audience watching a theatre production in the Armadillo, we were there just waiting in the wings, watching that unfold, and it was just absolutely brilliant. I thought the smaller, compact games meant a sort of better, more intimate spectator experience in some shape and form.
And I agree with you on all the people that you've mentioned. And if people go back and listen to the Daily Braw, they'll get an insight into what happened for each of those races. But I tend to agree with you that seeing the likes of Josh Kerr, Emily Campbell, Georgia Hunter Bell, Emma Finucane, Finnecan, however you say her name, she is a superstar. And being in that velodrome and witnessing that on the final day was incredible. She was exactly like Josh and Georgia. She was never going to get beaten. No one was, for whatever reason, these games were her golden games. 4 golds in 4 days, and she was never going to get beaten. But then also some new names, which I really wanted to highlight, because when you look back and you think that first weekend, Philip Nowacki,
Yeah.
I'd written him down in our previews as someone to watch in the breaststroke, but we knew he was a 200-meter breaststroke, which he won the gold for. But he obviously came and won that silver and beat Ramsey Peaty in the 100. Also got to the 50 final as well. And we've always had that brilliant British breaststroker, and Nowacki will be the next one. But it meant even more for him because he was representing Jersey, as it meant more for Emma Finucane because she was representing Wales, as it meant more for Josh Kerr because he was representing Scotland, and as it meant more for Emily Newnham in the 400-meter hurdles in an England vest, where she said, "My first ever athletic experience was an English schools vest," and those are the stories I think that when I look back on in Glasgow that I will fondly remember. Yes, some great sporting moments, but it meant even more to them and those athletes. And what a privilege to be standing, as you say, trackside and getting to interview them.
Yeah, seeing people like Philip Nowacki and also at the pool. Again, going back to this thing that will always get levelled at the Commonwealth Games, it's not the elite end of competition in most sports. I mean, you could probably say netball. It pretty much is the equivalent to a World Cup, and we got a huge shock in netball with the Australians only winning the bronze medal, saw them beat England. But going back to the pool, someone like Chad Lacoste, for example, who's been there for so long, burst onto the scene in 2012. He's not swimming or racing at the levels that he was, obviously, back in those days. But he's now won 21 Commonwealth Games medals in total. And I was there at the pool to see one of them. That makes him the most successful Commonwealth Games athlete of all time, ahead of Emma McEwen of Australia. So that was just amazing. That was just a little bit of history, too, have witnessed. Philip Nowacki, obviously, you talk about the importance of Jersey. On the last day, I saw Guernsey win a medal. I saw the Isle of Man win a medal on the track with Malaki as well. And to see, the joy of the bowler from Guernsey winning the silver, that was their only medal of the games. And we had a bit of a laugh, the fact that Jersey had 2, but Guernsey only had the 1 time. And there was a bit of friendly rivalry between them and the rest of it. Really enjoyed the bowls. Not a sport, an indoor bowls that, I've put down at the start of the games as being one of my highlights, but I was along there for a couple of sessions of it, covering some of the medal wins for some of the home nations. It was good. They had a shot clock. They had like a DJ. They had music. And it was just, like curling, once you kind of had sat there for about 15, 20 minutes, got a bit of a handle on it. I always think this sounds slightly patronizing towards the sports because, these people that are competing are working really hard, training really hard. And then we kind of go, well, I was an expert in an hour. And I do think that does sound slightly patronizing. But I hope people listening will understand what I mean in that it took me an hour to go, all right, I understand this now. I know why thousands of people go every weekend to their local bowls club. And this is a real, something that people will do in the same way that people might go to park run or people might go to gym or play five-a-side football. I get now why people will go to bowls.
Gary Kelly of Northern Ireland, I think you interviewed him the day before the opening ceremony, or the day of the opening ceremony when I first got there. And both of us were like, oh, he joked with you, why are you interviewing me? Because I'm carrying the flag, but you really want to speak to Bethany Firth. Yeah, exactly. But then he went on and won an individual bronze. And then I spoke to him on the final day, bowls. He won a gold with Adam McEwen in the men's pairs. He was in tears. And what a games he has. So I'd put Gary Kelly up there with your Kerrs and your Georgia Hunter Bells, and I just love the fact, as you say, that people were there, and there were sports that not always get the attention, but for just 5 minutes, whatever, it becomes the public consciousness. 500,000 people saw sport in Scotland during the games. Nearly 1 billion social views on the official channels. 8 million Aussies on Channel 7, I think, watched the first weekend. I think in the UK it was the biggest sport on HBO Max, apart from football, that they've ever had across the week. Businesses, footfall was up in Glasgow. Tourists was up in Glasgow. Um, I just, I think it was never meant to happen, but thank goodness it did, because if they'd have lost their spot in the calendar, we would have just moved on. And I think we'd have all forgotten that the Commonwealth Games, the friendly games, just adds something to it. Just on the shocks, you mentioned Australia losing in the netball. I think it's worth pointing out from a point of view, from a Team England point of view, which we focus on a lot. There was no able-bodied gold medalist from Team England. They didn't stand on top of the podium in Toll Cross. And I think from a swimming point of view, that's an interesting thing to look at. And also the England athletes who weren't there, and there were a number, and they know exactly who they are, and we'll see how they get on in the European Championships next week. But there were also some other English athletes who came and really delivered, and Georgia Hunter Bell being one of them, Emily Newnham, Sam Bennett, Jazz Sawyers, some really outstanding performances. Even the 4x4 mixed relay, who won the medal as well, in the last day. So I think there was some really good stuff. Obviously, there's always other things going on that you don't know the reasons why these things happen. But Australia, 171 medals, 70 golds. In the swimming, 37 golds, 76 medals. And in the athletics, 7 golds and 17 medals. They were really outstanding, Australia, weren't they? And everyone I spoke to who was an Aussie said they treat the commies the same as the Olympics. That's what the athletes told us. Some of the journalists didn't agree with that, but they are really gearing up for Brisbane, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I spoke to a journalist called Kate Massey, who was a reporter for Channel 7 News. She was telling me that their peak, they were getting 10.7 million viewers watching the track and field at home in Australia. And we actually met on that first day at the powerlifting, trying to sort of work it out between us, what was going on and how it was all worked out. And we caught up at various different things. And I interviewed her for Talk Sport on the last day about Australia, about their dominance. And she actually did say to me that the thing is they do take it really seriously in Australia. They don't have the continental championships in the same way that we do here. So for a lot of our athletes here, there will be a World Championships, there will be an Olympics. Then there's the Europeans. Now, Australia don't really have that in terms of Oceania. And if they did, it's kind of a Australia-New Zealand battle, with all due respect to some of the other nations. As we know, in many sports now, Australia have aligned themselves with the Asian confederations and look to compete there. But that's obviously still very much in its early days. So she was saying to me that is the kind of second biggest stage they get. They get the Olympics, then they get the Commonwealth Games. And obviously within individual sports, there will be World Championships as well. But, we look at the World Championship results in athletics, for example. You certainly don't see Australia getting the results that we saw at Scotstoun. So I think we do kind of just have an inbuilt busier calendar for our athletes in this country. We do have another major championships, which maybe down under they don't have in quite the same way, because we are obviously still part of Europe.
Absolutely. You mentioned some of the medal winners like Guernsey. Rwanda won their first ever medal. 41 nations won medals across the board. Half of them won golds. So again, it shows there is competition out there, whether you say it's as you said earlier, the greatest that there is. But it does show that the Commonwealth is part, and I think what I really loved about it was when the athletes talked about the unity. I think Lavia Nielsen and Lena Nielsen talked to me about it from the athletics, and Imani Lansiko as well, the British sprinter, England sprinter. She just talked about the unity and being together, and the world is a horrible place at the moment, but actually coming together for sport and as countries, it's a real beneficial thing to do. Talking of which, I thought, well, obviously, my other highlight was just the people of Glasgow. I mean, the famous phrase, people make Glasgow, don't they? They were
Yep.
exceptional.
I don't want to reveal too much because I've got a blog and it's all going to be online. But the blog is called People Make Glasgow. And just to kind of hint at the top line of that blog, People Make Glasgow, Josh Kerr, Georgia Hunter Bell, Philip Novacki, all these other names that we've mentioned. And actually, the people that made Glasgow for Glasgow 2026, I don't actually know either of their names. So People Make Glasgow, and it was two people whose names I don't know that made it. And you'll have to read the blog to find out more.
Yeah, no, you absolutely will. It's been a special week, and people remember back from Paris where we used to go and hang out in Bercy, where the gymnastics was and the basketball, and we were made very welcome there. Partick in Glasgow, we were made incredibly welcome, and we'll always be grateful for that week that we had in Glasgow. So 2030, India, Ahmedabad is the location and the city. Bigger sports, 17 sports probably. Then what? Nigeria, New Zealand. Nigeria had a good games, didn't they? In 2034, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Nigeria obviously were mentioned as being potential hosts for these ones and the next ones. I think India seems like a good bet. I went to a couple of briefings from the organisers about what they're planning. As you say, the sports will go up. They haven't announced their official sport program yet. That's still in negotiation, but they did say they would like to see a couple more team sports back in. So naturally, I think that will also be sports that India are traditionally good at. So cricket and hockey, I would imagine, might both come back onto the program. And yeah, I think Nigeria, I think they'd probably be interested in trying to get it to one or some of the Caribbean nations as well. And certainly as well now that the price point has been reset, and the makeup of the games has been reset. So rather than you come and you do the games our way with Commonwealth Sport, which is kind of what it's like with the International Olympic Committee, now it's we are Commonwealth Sport, we'll come and do the games your way.
Yeah.
And that might open it up then for someone like Singapore or someone like Malaysia or Kuala Lumpur to come back in. I mean, I know it has been hosted in Asia before. It would be nice to go back there. I think Commonwealth Sports seem to be pretty bullish that the pipeline of potential future hosts now are quite good. And what I will just say sort of finally on that before we wrap up is I don't anticipating it coming back to the UK now for quite some time. I'll be honest with you. I think it's going to go to India. I think it's probably going to go to one of the African nations. I would like to see it go to the Caribbean nation and then maybe back to another one of those Asian nations. And then you haven't even included in that conversation Canada or New Zealand, which again, you would think would be able to stage the new Commonwealth Games. So yeah, I basically just there stated the next 30 years of the movement. And again, haven't really included Australia because they let us down. So we slapped them on the wrist, but they paid for this one. So they got all the medals. And like I said, I don't think there's the appetite to bring it back to the UK for quite some time either.
No, I think you're absolutely right. So Glasgow, we say thank you to the people of Glasgow. We definitely say thank you, and look out for Michael's blog on that. So we start looking ahead to LA. It's what it's all about now. We're back onto Olympic beat, aren't we?
Yep, looking ahead to LA and something to do with the French Alps that we still haven't quite worked out what that is yet. But yeah. And qualification for those Olympic Games, mourn this one, miss it, have the blues, but qualification for those Olympic Games have started, they're happening, and within 12 months' time, we'll be starting to name teams and athletes, and it will all build and go again.
So if you've liked what we've done during the Commonwealth Games, do check us out on our socials. Make sure you download, follow, listen. That is the final Braw from the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games. As Michael said, we're going to start looking ahead to LA, and we're all over the Alps. And watch out, there's some big news coming from the world of snow and ice.
This is anything but footy at the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games.